I still remember the sound of the front door slamming behind me that afternoon, a sound so sharp it felt like it cut the air in our brick house on Willow Street in Cleveland, America. For years, that house had been my safe place. It had tall windows that caught the morning sun, a bright blue front door that stood out from every other house on the block, and a long white porch that cost us almost $18,000 to rebuild during our second year of marriage. I painted the living room myself, layer by layer, telling myself that I was creating a home where love would grow. But that day, as I stepped inside, the house felt colder than the winter wind outside. It felt like it already knew what was about to happen. Derek Lawson, my husband, stood in the middle of the living room like he had been waiting for me, his arms stiff, his jaw tight. His face looked different, older, heavier with something dark. His sister, Amanda, sat on the couch with her legs crossed, wearing a smug look I had always hated. His mother, Helen, stood beside him with her arms folded, as if she were the judge of my entire life. I felt my stomach twist when I saw them all together. It looked like they were preparing for a show, and I was the main act. I set my brown handbag on the kitchen counter and tried to keep my voice steady as I asked, "What's going on?" But the question floated in the air like smoke. No one answered. No one blinked. Then Derek stepped forward.
He didn't speak.
He didn't explain. Instead, he threw a thick stack of papers at my feet so hard that they hit the floor with a loud slap. I could feel the sound in my bones. I looked down and saw the word divorce printed across the top page. My entire body went still. When I looked up, Derek finally spoke. His eyes weren't the warm eyes of the man I once loved. They were full of anger, pride, and something almost cruel. "You will give your whole salary to my mother's account," he said. "Every month. No excuses. It's time you started paying back what this family has done for you." His voice was flat, like he was reading a rule that had already been decided. I blinked, confused, because his words didn't make sense. I worked hard for my $95,000 annual salary as a financial consultant. I earned every cent through long nights, early mornings, and all those drives between Cleveland and Columbus when I felt too tired to even think straight. I paid more bills than Derek ever did. I helped his sister when she lost her job. I covered his mother's hospital copay 2 years ago. I cooked, cleaned, and kept our home together. "Pay your mother my salary?" I finally said. "Are you serious?" His mother stepped closer, a small smile on her lips like she had been waiting for this moment. "It's the least you can do," she said. "We accepted you into our family when you had nothing." I had to laugh because the lie was so big it almost felt unreal. I had always supported myself. I never took a dollar from them. But they had rewritten the story so completely in their heads that they actually believed it. "No," I said simply. "I'm not giving you anything." That one small word cracked something in Derek. His face twisted with rage. He pointed at me as if I were some stranger who had ruined his life. "You old witch," he shouted. "I made a huge mistake marrying you. The biggest mistake of my life. You don't deserve this house, or this family, or anything. Get out of my house." The words hit me so hard it felt like the room tilted. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I had given 5 years of my life to this marriage. 5 years of work, love, and sacrifice. And this man, who once held my hand in front of a pastor and promised to protect me, was now throwing me away like trash in front of his family. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt something inside me stiffen, like my heart grew armor. I bent down, picked up the papers he had thrown at me, and held them tightly. Amanda smirked. Helen rolled her eyes. Derek stormed into the kitchen, slamming cabinets like he was the one who had been wronged. "You should leave quietly," Helen said, her voice calm and cold. "You were never good enough for our boy." I didn't answer her. I didn't trust myself to speak. I walked into the bedroom, packed 2 bags with the things that mattered most, and stepped out of the house I once believed I'd grow old in. Derek didn't even look at me as I left. He celebrated his victory too early, because he forgot something. Something important. Something he had signed himself. The prenup.
He thought he broke me that day.
He didn't know he had just handed me the key to my future. The morning after Derek threw the divorce papers at me, I woke up in my friend Kayla's small rented apartment on Westwood Avenue. Her place was tiny, with narrow hallways and old wooden floors that creaked even when no one was walking. But that night, it felt warmer than the large brick house I had lived in for years. Kayla made me tea and wrapped me in a blanket, and I sat on her faded gray couch staring at nothing. I only cried once, just for a moment. Not because I missed Derek, but because I couldn't believe I had spent 5 years building a life with a man who could throw me out in front of his family without a single thought. When I woke up, sunlight was slipping through the blinds. The moment my eyes opened, everything inside me felt heavy again. I kept replaying Derek's words in my mind. Old witch. Big mistake. Get out of my house. The strange part was, as cruel as those words were, they didn't break me. They woke me up. They made me see the truth I had been ignoring for years. Derek didn't love me. He loved control. And when I refused to obey him, he threw me away like I was nothing. Kayla sat beside me with a cup of coffee. "You need to go see a lawyer," she said. "Today." I nodded. She was right. I had no interest in fighting for him, but I did need to understand what he had done by filing for divorce. And I needed to understand what would happen to the house, the same house I helped maintain, clean, repair, and pay for more times than Derek ever admitted. By noon, I was sitting in the downtown office of my lawyer, Mr. Brad Cooper. He was a calm man in his early 50s with neat gray hair and a voice that always sounded patient. His office smelled like old books and lemon polish, and his desk was covered with thick case files. When I walked in, he offered me a gentle smile, the kind of look that made me feel like everything might still be okay. "I read your message," he said as I sat down. "You said your husband served you with divorce papers?" I took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes. Yesterday. He wants me out of the house. And he wants me to pay my salary to his mother every month." Mr. Cooper raised his eyebrows. "He asked that." "He demanded it," I said. "And he called me names in front of his family." Mr. Cooper sighed and pulled out a pen. "Well, let's start with the basics." Then he opened a folder I hadn't seen in years, the prenuptial agreement Derek had been so proud of. The moment I saw that folder, something inside me shifted. I remembered signing the papers 5 years earlier, sitting at a small wooden table in a quiet Cleveland law office. Derek had insisted on having a prenup because he said he needed to protect his assets. He bought the house for $420,000 before we married, with help from his aunt in London, who had given him a loan in pounds. He talked about the house like it was his crown jewel, something no one should ever touch. At the time, I didn't care about the house. I didn't marry him for that. I married him because I thought he loved me. So I agreed to the prenup without fear. But I made one clear condition of my own, a simple one that I added because I didn't want him to panic about what would happen if we separated. My condition was this. If he divorced me, the house would be mine. If I divorced him, my personal property, my savings, investments, and business assets would become his. Derek agreed because he was so certain he would never be the one to end the marriage. He told me he would never divorce me, that he was loyal, that he was the steady one between us. And I, foolish and in love, believed him. Now, sitting across from Mr. Cooper, everything clicked into place. He flipped through the pages slowly. Then he stopped at the section I remembered writing with Derek's lawyer. He looked up at me and smiled. "Well," he said, "your husband made a mistake. A very big one." I leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Because he divorced you," Mr. Cooper said, tapping the page with his pen. "The house is legally yours now." I blinked, confused for a moment. "What?" He nodded. "He filed for divorce. He ended the marriage. And the prenup clearly states that if he divorces you, the Cleveland house becomes your property. Fully. Permanently. It transfers to you." I just stared at him, unable to speak. After a few seconds, he continued, "You don't need his permission to enter that house anymore. You own it. He doesn't." I felt my breath catch. It was like someone had opened a window inside my chest, letting fresh air rush in. "He threw me out," I whispered. "But legally, I can throw him out." Mr. Cooper nodded gently. The law is very clear. The weight I had carried since yesterday suddenly felt lighter. Derek thought he had destroyed me. He thought he had the upper hand, that he could humiliate me, take my salary, and push me out of the life I helped build. But he had no idea he had handed me power the moment he angrily signed those divorce papers. I walked out of that office feeling like I had been given a new life. A chance to breathe. A chance to recover. A chance to reclaim everything he tried to take from me. Derek thought he won. But he had no idea that he had just gifted me the biggest victory of my life. 2 months after Derek threw me out of the house, I found myself driving back to Willow Street on a bright, crisp morning. The sky over Cleveland was clear, and the sun reflected off the car hood like it wanted to guide me forward. I had the new deed in my purse. My lawyer had filed all the paperwork, handled every detail, and now the house legally belonged to me. Not him. Not his mother. Not his whole loud, controlling family. Me. As I turned onto the street, I slowed down. The house looked exactly how I remembered it. Tall brick walls, a wide front porch, a bright blue door that I had painted myself on a warm spring day. The white railing still curved around the porch, the same railing Derek and I spent $4,200 repairing the second year of marriage. I used to stand on that porch and dream of a peaceful life. Now I stood there knowing I was walking into a chapter where I finally had the power. I climbed the porch steps, each one feeling lighter than the one before. When I reached the door, my hand didn't even shake. I unlocked it, pushed it open, and stepped inside the home he once forced me to leave. The moment I walked in, I heard laughter coming from the kitchen. Male laughter. Carefree, loud, drunk laughter. It irritated me, not because he was happy, but because he was happy in the house he had no right to occupy anymore. I walked toward the kitchen, the sound growing clearer with each step. Derek was sitting at the table with his cousin Thomas, both drinking beer even though it wasn't even 10 in the morning. Empty cans littered the counter. A pizza box sat open, cold and half-eaten. They were laughing about something I couldn't hear, but the second Derek saw me, the laughter died in his throat. He choked on his drink and coughed so hard that Thomas stood up in surprise. Derek stared at me with wide eyes. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice cracking. "You can't come in without permission." I felt a calm settle over me, a calm I hadn't felt in years. I stepped forward slowly and set my bag on the counter. "Derek," I said, "I'm home." Those 2 words hit him harder than anything I could have screamed. His whole face lost color. It was like watching the pride drain out of him in real time. "This is my house," he said, standing up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "You can't just walk in whenever you want." I reached into my purse and pulled out the deed, the official document with my lawyer's signature, the date, and the section referencing the prenup he had signed without thinking. I placed it on the table between us. "Not anymore," I said. Thomas leaned closer, eyes wide, as if the paper might bite him. Derek grabbed the deed with shaking hands. His eyes darted across the page, scanning for something, anything, that could save him. I watched his expression shift as every detail sank in. He saw the prenup clause. He saw the date of the divorce filing. He saw his own signature. He saw the legal confirmation that he had given the house to me the moment he divorced me. Then I watched the memory strike him. That day. Those words. The anger. The pride. The moment he threw the papers at me like a weapon. He remembered everything. And he remembered he had chosen to end the marriage, not me. The realization broke him. His shoulders dropped. His jaw trembled. And then, like something inside him snapped, he whispered, "Please don't do this." "I'm sorry." Thomas glanced between us like he couldn't understand what was happening. Derek reached out to me as if touching my arm would undo legal documents, lawyers, and his own cruelty. But I didn't move. I didn't come for an apology. I didn't come for revenge. I came because this house was mine. Legally. Fully. Officially. And no amount of tears would rewrite what he had done. He took a step closer. "We can talk about this," he said, voice breaking. "We can fix things." I didn't mean what I said. I was angry. I was confused. Please. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the man I once thought I loved. A man who used my kindness until it no longer served him. A man who let his mother decide how I should live. A man who believed I was something he could throw away. I stepped aside and pointed toward the front door. You have 10 minutes to leave, I said. He stared at me as I had hit him. You can't mean that. I can, I answered. And I do. His face crumpled. He begged. His voice cracked. He tried every angle. Anger, guilt, pity, memory. He said he still loved me. He said he didn't mean anything he had shouted that day. He even said he would cut ties with his mother, if that's what it took. But my mind kept going back to that moment. The moment he stood in our living room, calling me an old witch. The moment he looked at me with hatred. The moment he chose to end our marriage without hesitation. Old witch. Big mistake. Leave my house. His words. Now it was his turn to taste them. I folded my arms and waited. 9 minutes left. Thomas stood in silence, unsure whether to help him or stay out of it. Derek finally realized begging wouldn't save him. He grabbed a duffel bag from the hallway, threw in whatever he could, and walked toward the door. When he reached the doorway, he turned back one last time. His voice was soft, desperate. Please, he whispered, don't let me go. I didn't answer. He stepped outside. I closed the door. And for the first time in a long time, the house felt peaceful. Derek left that morning with only 2 bags, the same way I once did when he threw me out. Life has a strange way of leveling itself. I watched from the living room window as he dragged his bags down the porch steps, shoulders slumped, head lowered, moving like a man who had lost everything. For a moment, I wondered if I should feel something, sadness, anger, pity. But I felt nothing. It was as if the house itself had pushed him out and finally closed a long overdue chapter. The moment the door clicked shut behind him, a quiet settled over the home. A soft, peaceful quiet I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't the silence of fear or the silence of holding my breath waiting for the next argument. It was the silence of freedom, the silence of ownership, the silence of a future opening in front of me. Within 2 hours, a locksmith arrived. I paid him $280 to change every lock in the house. Front door, back door, garage door, basement door, every single one. When he handed me the new keys, I felt like he was handing me the keys to a new life. No one could walk in without my permission anymore. No one could claim authority over this space. It was mine legally and emotionally. The next few days, I worked on transforming the house room by room. I started with the living room, the same room where Derek shouted at me, where his mother judged me, where I had once felt small. I wanted that room to be reborn. I bought soft cream paint for the walls, a warm shade that made the room feel larger. I spent an entire Saturday painting, music playing from my phone, sunlight pouring through the windows. When I finished, the room looked like it belonged to someone who valued peace, not control. Then I replaced the old sofa, the one Derek refused to get rid of, even though the cushions were sagging. I bought a new one for $2,300, a soft gray sectional with wide cushions that felt like a hug when I sat down. I added fresh white curtains that softened the light, making the room feel warm and open. Each change I made filled the house with a sense of myself, a sense of who I could finally be without fear hovering over me. I didn't keep anything that reminded me of arguments, cold nights, or harsh words. I didn't fill the house with memories of him. I filled it with memories of strength, memories of survival, memories of the woman I had become. The first weekend in my newly reclaimed home, I invited my friends over. Kayla arrived first, carrying a bottle of wine from Europe that she had saved for a special moment. If anyone deserves a celebration, she said, hugging me tightly, it's you. My other friends arrived with food, dessert, flowers, and warm laughter. We sat around the dining table, my table now, and talked about everything except Derek. No one asked how he was doing, and I didn't care to tell them. This was my evening, my home, my moment. We toasted to new beginnings. We toasted to courage. We toasted to walking away from what breaks us and walking toward what heals us. For the first time in a long time, I felt not just alive, but whole. Later that night, after everyone left and the house grew quiet again, I walked through every room one by one. I touched the new sofa, the freshly painted walls, and the clean counters. I went upstairs and stood in the doorway of the bedroom that once held too many tears. It felt different now, lighter, safer, mine. People later asked me whether I ever forgave Derek. The answer was simple. I didn't. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. Some people don't want to change because they believe they're already right. Some people need consequences more than second chances. Derek wasn't just cruel to me. He enjoyed hurting me. He believed I would always come running back, always bend, always give in. Taking responsibility for his actions would have been the last thing he ever wanted to do. And I had no interest in teaching him how to be a better man. A few weeks after he left, Derek tried contacting me. He sent long messages apologizing, saying he didn't mean the things he said, claiming he was under stress, begging for another chance. I read every message without replying. Then I deleted them. I had no desire to reopen a door I finally closed. Sometimes strength is not about fighting. Sometimes strength is about walking away and never looking back. One afternoon, I stood at the edge of the porch, sipping coffee, looking at the quiet street. A thought came to me so clearly I almost smiled. This house, the one he claimed as his, the one he used to make me feel small, was now the place where I grew stronger. He once threw divorce papers at my feet like a punishment. Now I walk across the floors of a home he thought he would never lose. His house had become my home. His mistake had become my freedom. His anger had become my blessing. And every time I unlock the front door, turn the key and step inside, I smile, not out of spite but out of peace. Because this is the life I rebuilt. This is the strength I earned. This is the home I claimed. And no one can throw me out ever again.